She sits alone at the end of the bar, silent, invisible, while Marines around her laugh and shout and slam drinks like they own the night. No one looks at her twice, just another civilian who wandered into the wrong place. But then a young Marine notices the tattoo on her wrist, small, geometric, the kind operators wear. He walks over, grinning, curious. "You ever serve?" She nods, says nothing. His buddies gather around, joking, guessing branches like it's a game. Army, Navy, Air Force. She stays quiet until one of them finally asks the question that changes everything. "What was your call sign?" 3 seconds of silence. The bar noise fades. She looks up, voice calm, final. "Valkyrie 1. His beer slips from his hand. Glass shatters. 3 Marines at the next table stand up instantly. An older staff sergeant goes rigid, eyes wide, because that name isn't just a call sign. It's a legend. And legends aren't supposed to be sitting in bars wearing jeans and a hoodie. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Drop it in the comments. And if stories about quiet heroes who never asked for recognition move you, consider subscribing. We honor the ones who did the impossible and then disappeared. Because here's the question this story answers. What happens when the woman everyone thought was dead walks into a room full of people who know exactly what she did to keep 7 operators alive? Let's find out. Dawn breaks at 05:30, same as every morning. Meredith Crane's alarm doesn't go off because she's already awake, standing at her apartment window watching the first gray light creep across the empty beach below. The naval base sits 3 miles north, helicopters visible on the tarmac even from this distance. She tracks them without thinking, counting rotors, estimating fuel load from the way they sit on their skids. Old habits. She's dressed in under 2 minutes, running shoes laced in 12 seconds flat. The muscle memory so ingrained, her fingers move independently of conscious thought. No music, no headphones, she runs in silence, feet hitting sand in a rhythm that matches her breath count. 4 steps inhale, 4 steps exhale. The pattern keeps her heart rate exactly where she needs it. 5 miles, 38 minutes. She doesn't vary the route or the pace. The shower afterward runs cold for exactly 4 minutes. Not because the hot water is broken, but because cold keeps the mind sharp. She measures breakfast to the gram. Oatmeal, blueberries, black coffee. The kitchen is spotless, everything in its place. Knives arranged by size. Spices alphabetized. Cleaning supplies under the sink organized like a field hospital supply cache. Most needed items in front, backup stock rotated by expiration date. Most people would call it obsessive. Meredith calls it functional. On the highest shelf in her bedroom closet, wrapped in faded parachute cord, sits a small wooden box with a combination lock. She hasn't opened it in 3 years. Hasn't touched it in 6 months. But every morning when she pulls down her work bag, her eyes track to it automatically, confirming it's still there, still locked, still containing the things she refuses to integrate into this life. Her glove compartment holds a challenge coin she never looks at. Brass, worn smooth on one side from years of nervous handling by someone else's fingers before it ended up in her possession. She knows it's there, knows exactly which pocket it would fit in if she ever decided to carry it. She leaves it where it is. The trauma shears in her medical kit have grip tape wrapped so many times the original handle is invisible underneath. Faded unit markings peek through where the tape is worn thin. NSN numbers that don't correspond to civilian medical supply chains. She should replace them. She doesn't. By 1900 hours, she's at the hospital. Night shift. The ER is chaos dressed up as medicine, and Meredith moves through it like water through rock, finding the path of least resistance while still accomplishing the mission. Because that's what it is to her, even if she'd never say it out loud. Mission, objective, execution. A nurse named Jennifer watches her set up for the shift, arranging supplies in patterns that seem excessive. Trauma Bay 1 gets stocked heavier than the others. Meredith positions the crash cart at a 45-degree angle from the door, maximizing access from 3 approach vectors. She inventories the drug box twice, checking expiration dates with the kind of focus most people reserve for defusing bombs. Jennifer leans against the doorframe. She's been working here 2 years, long enough to find Meredith's precision amusing rather than intimidating. You know, we had a whole shift here before you arrived, right? Everything was already stocked. Meredith doesn't look up from counting IV starts. Different people stock differently. It's a hospital, not a war zone. Something flickers across Meredith's face, too fast to name. Preparation prevents poor performance. That's very military of you. Jennifer's tone is light, teasing. You ex-Army or something? Meredith's fingers pause on a package of hemostatic gauze. The pause lasts maybe half a second. Something like that. Jennifer doesn't notice the gauze itself, the kind with military stock numbers printed on the packaging, the type civilian hospitals don't typically carry because it's designed for battlefield hemorrhage control. Meredith keeps her personal stock mixed in with hospital supplies, habits from a life that's supposed to be over. The shift proceeds in controlled chaos. Drunk college kids with alcohol poisoning, elderly woman with chest pain, motorcyclist versus guardrail, the kind of trauma that makes new nurses go pale. Meredith moves through it with the same measured efficiency she brings to everything else. Hand steady, voice calm, instructions precise. Dr. Hassan, the attending, watches her splint a compound fracture with the kind of speed that only comes from doing it 1,000 times under worse conditions. Where'd you train again? County paramedic program, 5 years ago. You move like a trauma surgeon. I pay attention. She secures the splint with exactly the right tension, neither too tight nor too loose. You taught me that. It's a deflection, crediting him with skills she'd already mastered in places she won't name. He accepts it because the outcome is good and the patient is stable, and in emergency medicine, results matter more than credentials. At 0200, they run a mass casualty drill. Hospital policy, quarterly requirement. 16 simulated patients, color-coded by triage priority. The ER dissolves into managed chaos, nurses shouting, residents scrambling, everyone trying to remember their assignments while mocked-up wounds bleed theatrical corn syrup across the linoleum. Meredith takes one look at the scene and her brain shifts into a mode she hasn't accessed in years. She doesn't mean to do it, doesn't consciously choose to step into command, but her voice cuts through the noise with an authority that makes people stop mid-sentence. Set up a collection point here. Triage runs through this corridor. Reds to trauma 1 and 2, yellows stage here, greens and blacks to the waiting area. Dr. Hassan blinks at her. That's not the protocol we use. It's more efficient. Single flow, multiple exit points. Prevents backlog. Since when do paramedics redesign triage systems? She catches herself. The words had come out clipped, command tone, the kind of voice that expects immediate compliance because lives depend on speed. She softens it, steps back. Sorry, just a thought. We'll do it your way. But 3 nurses have already started moving equipment to the position she indicated, muscle memory responding to the certainty in her voice. The drill runs smoother than any previous iteration. Patients processed faster, fewer bottlenecks, clear sight lines for the charge nurse to coordinate flow. Afterward, Jennifer corners her by the supply closet. What was that? What was what? That voice, that whole take command thing. Jennifer's eyes are curious, not hostile. You sounded like a field officer. Meredith focuses on restocking her kit. I've run a lot of drills. Not like that you haven't. That was tactical. CCP, staging areas, flow management. She pauses. My brother's Army. I've heard him use those exact terms. Common sense isn't branch specific. Jennifer lets it drop, but her eyes linger on Meredith's hands as she organizes supplies. The way she chambers each item with mechanical precision, creating order from chaos with the kind of efficiency that comes from training under conditions where disorder means death. The shift ends at 0700. Meredith drives home in silence. No radio. Windows cracked to let in the salt air and the distant sound of waves. A helicopter passes overhead, low enough that she can identify the model by sound alone. UH-60 Blackhawk, probably running training exercises from the base. Her jaw tightens. Her fingers find her left wrist, tracing the small geometric tattoo most people assume is decorative. It's not decorative. Friday afternoon, her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She almost deletes it without reading, but something makes her look. GPS coordinates. Nothing else except 2 words. Drinks. Saturday. She stares at the message for 30 seconds. Her thumb hovers over the delete button. The coordinates point to a location she recognizes. A bar just outside the base. The kind of place she's avoided for 3 years because military bars have long memories, and she's worked too hard to stay invisible. She deletes the message, opens her contacts, scrolls to a block number labeled simply, "Do Not." Her hand shakes, actually shakes, the first visible crack in the composure she maintains like armor. She doesn't unblock it, doesn't call, just stares at those 2 words, "Do Not." The warning she gave herself years ago when staying hidden felt more important than staying connected. She sets the phone down, makes dinner, eats in silence, goes to bed at 2100, same as always. She doesn't sleep. Saturday evening arrives with coastal fog rolling in from the ocean, turning streetlights into soft halos. Meredith sits in her car outside the Anchor for 10 minutes, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, trying to convince herself to drive away. The bar is loud even from the parking lot, music and laughter bleeding through the walls. Military bars have a specific energy, a chaos born from people who spend their days in rigid hierarchy and their nights trying to remember what it feels like to be human. She should leave. Every instinct says leave. She gets out of the car. The door opens on a wall of sound and heat and bodies. The place is packed, mostly Marines from the look of them, fresh off a training rotation, still carrying the particular blend of exhaustion and relief that comes from a week of getting screamed at. They cluster around high-top tables, voices loud, gestures bigger than necessary, the way people act when they're trying to prove they're fine. Meredith moves to the far end of the bar, the corner seat with a view of the room and clear sight lines to both exits. The bartender is older, maybe 60, with the kind of face that's seen things and decided not to talk about them. He nods at her, sets down a coaster. What'll it be? Whiskey, neat. He pours without comment, slides the glass across polished wood. His eyes linger on her for a moment, the way someone looks at a puzzle they can't quite solve. She's used to it. She has the kind of presence that makes people look twice without knowing why. She nurses the drink slowly, observing. Old habits. The aggressive drunk at table 4 is 3 beers from starting something. The senior NCO in the corner is keeping order without seeming to try, his presence enough to keep the younger Marines in check. 2 women in Navy utility uniforms laugh at the bar, comparing stories about their duty stations. A group of corporals argues about football with the intensity of people who have nothing bigger to worry about right now. Meredith tracks it all peripherally, the way she tracks everything. Gathering information because information means control, and control means survival. A fight almost starts when someone bumps into someone else's girlfriend. Meredith's body coils before she thinks about it, weight shifting forward, muscles tensing for intervention. She catches herself, forces stillness. She's not that person anymore. Not the one who steps into chaos. Not the one who thinks it's her job to manage every crisis in visual range. Just a civilian, just here for a drink. The bartender notices. His eyes flick to her, then to the altercation, then back. Recognition sparks in his expression, the kind that comes from seeing someone react with tactical awareness instead of normal human hesitation. But he doesn't say anything, just watches as the senior NCO diffuses the situation with a quiet word and a firm hand on a shoulder. Meredith releases a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her fingers trace the rim of her glass in a pattern. 4 counts clockwise, 4 counts counter. Breath control rhythm. Heart rate management. Techniques designed to keep the body calm when the mind wants to flood with adrenaline. She's so focused on staying calm that she doesn't notice the young Marine until he's right beside her. "Hey," his voice is friendly, curious. He's maybe 23, clean cut, the kind of earnest that hasn't been beaten out of him yet. "Sorry to bother you, but I saw your tattoo when you reached for your drink." Meredith glances down. The geometric pattern on her inner wrist is visible where her sleeve is ridden up. She pulls it down carefully, not fast enough to seem defensive, not slow enough to seem unconcerned. Just a tattoo. "Nah, I've seen those before. My instructor at SOI had one similar. Call sign marker, right? Coordinate intersection pattern?" She takes a sip of whiskey instead of answering. The Marine takes silence as invitation and gestures to his buddies, 3 other corporals who drift over with the casual confidence of people who've been drinking just long enough to think they're charming. "Guys, check it out. I think she's ex-military." One of them, broader and louder, grins. "No way. She's too quiet. Military gets loud." "Not all military," the first Marine says. He extends his hand. "I'm Nash. This is Rodriguez, Chen, and Williams." Meredith shakes his hand briefly. Firm grip, not challenging. Meredith: "So you served?" Nash's eyes are genuinely curious, no mockery in them yet. "Long time ago." "What branch?" "Does it matter?" Rodriguez laughs. "Oh, she's definitely military. That's the most enlisted answer I've ever heard." They start guessing, treating it like a game. Navy, Army, Air Force, Coast Guard. Each guess gets a shake of her head, and she can see them getting more invested in solving the puzzle, the way people do when they think they're close to figuring something out. Williams studies her posture, the way she sits with her back to the wall, positioned to see the whole room. "You're too aware to be regular Navy. I'm thinking corpsman. Fleet Marine Force, maybe?" Meredith's jaw tightens for a fraction of a second. Micro-expression, barely visible, but Williams catches it. "I'm right, aren't I? You were a corpsman." "Something like that." Nash leans against the bar, warming to the mystery. "Okay, so if you were a corpsman and you've got a call sign tattoo, that means you were attached to a tactical unit, not regular hospital stuff." Chen jumps in. "SART, maybe? Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsmen? Those guys are intense." The conversation is drawing attention now. Other Marines glancing over, interested in the quiet woman who's become the center of speculation. Meredith feels the walls closing in. The anonymity she's maintained for years starting to crack under the weight of curious attention. She should leave. Should throw down money and walk out before this goes further. But then Staff Sergeant Reyes approaches, and the dynamic shifts. He's older than the corporals, maybe mid-40s, with the kind of weathered face that speaks to multiple deployments and the particular gravity that comes from having seen people die. He doesn't join the guessing game, just stands slightly apart, studying Meredith with an intensity that makes her skin prickle. "That's not a SART tattoo," he says quietly. His voice cuts through the noise. "The pattern's wrong. Coordinate intersection with that specific angle. That's special operations medical. Not just attached, integrated." The corporals go quiet. Nash looks between Reyes and Meredith. "What's the difference?" "The difference is she wasn't support. She was part of the element." Reyes's eyes don't leave Meredith's face. "Where'd you serve, ma'am?" The word ma'am carries weight. Respect offered before earned. the kind someone gives when they recognize authority they can't quite place. Meredith meets his eyes. That was a long time ago, Staff Sergeant. Was, he repeats. Not is. You separated. Everyone separates eventually. Not everyone disappears. The words hang in the air. Around them, conversations continue, but their small circle has gone quiet, everyone picking up on the sudden tension. Meredith's fingers stop tracing the glass rim. Her breathing stays even, controlled, but there's a shift in her posture, a readiness that wasn't there before. Nash, oblivious to the undercurrent, grins. Okay, this is killing me. What was your call sign? Just tell us. We're all military here, we get it. Leave it alone, Corporal, Reyes says, but his eyes are still on Meredith, searching for confirmation of something he suspects but can't prove. Come on, Staff Sergeant, it's just a call sign. What's the harm? Nash looks at Meredith with puppy dog earnestness. Please, we just want to know who we're drinking with. 3 seconds of silence. The bar noise seems to fade, or maybe Meredith just stops hearing it, her focus narrowing to this moment, this choice. She could lie, could give a fake name, some random call sign that sounds plausible, could deflect again, change the subject, let them think whatever they want to think. But she's tired, tired of hiding, tired of carrying the weight of a past she can't talk about, and a present that feels like a life sentence of deliberate invisibility. She looks at Nash, then at Reyes, then at her glass. When she speaks, her voice is calm, final, carrying the kind of weight that only comes from absolute certainty. Valkyrie 1. The reaction is instant and catastrophic. Nash's beer slips from his hand. The glass hits the floor and shatters, sharp and loud, cutting through background noise like a gunshot. 3 Marines at the next table stand up simultaneously, chairs scraping. Staff Sergeant Reyes goes rigid, his hand moving unconsciously toward a salute before he catches himself and forces it down. The bartender drops the bottle he's holding. It doesn't break, just hits the rubber mat behind the bar with a thud that sounds too loud in the sudden quiet. An older man in the corner, civilian clothes but military bearing, whispers something to his companion, who immediately pulls out his phone. A table of Navy corpsmen goes completely silent, 6 people frozen mid-conversation, staring. Someone whispers, barely audible, "That's impossible." The silence spreads like a shockwave, radiating outward from Meredith's corner of the bar. Conversations die in waves. The music still plays, some country song about trucks and heartbreak, but human noise evaporates, replaced by the kind of quiet that only comes when a room full of people collectively realizes they've stumbled onto something bigger than a Friday night. Meredith doesn't move, just sits with her whiskey, watching the realization spread across faces. Seeing the moment recognition hits and transforms curiosity into something else entirely. Nash looks at his shattered beer, then at Meredith, then at Reyes. What? What did I miss? Reyes's voice comes out barely controlled. Ma'am, Operation Anvil Fury, Helmand Province, August 2019. It's not a question. Meredith's expression doesn't change, but something shudders behind her eyes. That's classified, Staff Sergeant. The operation's name is, what happened isn't, not anymore. His eyes drop to her left hand, to the small scar visible between thumb and forefinger. You have the mark. Everyone said Valkyrie 1 was KIA when the extraction bird took fire. I'm not dead. We can see that, ma'am. His voice holds a tremor now, something between awe and disbelief. I was stationed at FOB Granite. We monitored your transmissions for 4 hours. Command told us you were gone when the QRF couldn't reach you. Around them, the bar has gone from quiet to dead silent. Every ear tuned to a conversation that's rewriting someone's night, someone's understanding of the world. If you know someone whose quiet strength changed everything, someone who never asked for recognition but deserved it more than anyone else, share their story in the comments. And if these stories matter to you, If you believe in honoring the people who do the impossible and then disappear, subscribe. We're just getting started, and what happens next will show you exactly why the name Valkyrie 1 made an entire bar stop breathing. Meredith stands abruptly, the stool scraping against hardwood. She throws two 20s on the bar, more than enough to cover her drink and Nash's shattered beer. Her movements are controlled but fast, the kind of exit strategy someone uses when they've calculated exactly how many steps it takes to reach the door and how many people stand between her and freedom. Staff Sergeant Reyes moves to block her path. Not aggressive, not threatening, but deliberate. His body language reads protection, not confrontation, like he's guarding something precious rather than containing something dangerous. "Ma'am, please, just wait. I need to go, Staff Sergeant." "I was there." His voice drops, meant only for her. "FOB Granite, August 7th through 9th, 2019. I was a corporal then, radio watch. I heard everything." Meredith's jaw sets. "Then you know it's classified." "The operation is classified. What you did isn't. Not anymore." His eyes search hers. "They told us you were KIA when the extraction bird took fire. Command sent the official notification 3 days later. Killed in action, body not recovered." "I'm standing right here." "I can see that." His voice cracks slightly. "Which means someone lied, either then or now." Around them, the silence has weight. 30, maybe 40 people watching this conversation unfold, not understanding the specifics but recognizing the gravity. Nash stands frozen beside his shattered glass, looking between them like he's trying to solve an equation with missing variables. Corporal Rodriguez pulls out his phone, fingers moving fast. His face goes pale as he reads. Holy God! There's a Reddit thread from 2021. Military medical personnel discussing legendary corpsmen. Valkyrie 1 is listed under classified operations. It says here the call sign belonged to a combat medic attached to a SEAL reconnaissance element that got ambushed in Helmand. 7 casualties. All survived. Williams leans over to read. It says the medic stayed behind to hold the LZ while the casualties evacuated. Held off enemy contact for 4 hours until QRF arrived. That's operational detail, Meredith says sharply. Take it down. Her tone makes Rodriguez flinch. It's not a request. It's a command, delivered with the kind of authority that doesn't ask for compliance. It expects it. He pockets his phone immediately, muscle memory responding to officer voice even though Meredith's wearing jeans and a hoodie. Chen's eyes go wide. You stayed behind, in an active firefight, alone. It wasn't alone. Meredith's fingers tighten on her car keys. There were 7 people who needed to get out. Someone had to maintain the perimeter. For 4 hours, Reyes says quietly. The radio logs show continuous contact. We heard you calling adjustments, coordinating with the bird, treating casualties while taking fire. You don't know what you heard. I know exactly what I heard, ma'am. Your voice, calm, precise. Every transmission professional, even when we could hear rounds impacting around your position. He pauses. The last transmission said 7 passengers KIA. You told them we were all dead. Meredith's composure cracks. Just for a second, just enough to show the weight she's been carrying. I said priority, not KIA. Priority evacuation. You told them the casualties were dead, Reyes presses, so they wouldn't risk another bird trying to extract you. I told them to complete the mission. The distinction matters. The room feels it even if most people don't understand why. Mission first, personal safety second. The fundamental equation of military service taken to its logical and terrible conclusion. Nash finds his voice. What happened after? If you told them everyone was dead, how did you get out? QRF reached my position at 2300 hours, 12 hours after initial contact. Meredith's voice has gone flat, reciting facts instead of living through memory. I was extracted and debriefed. End of story. That's not the end, William says, still reading over Rodriguez's shoulder. This thread says you were awarded the Navy Cross, Silver Star, Purple Heart. There's a photo of the ceremony, but your face is blurred out. Operational security. You're a legend, Rodriguez breathes. People tell stories about Valkyrie 1 and combatmedic courses. The instructors use your tactics as teaching examples. They use tactics, not me. Because they think you're dead, Reyes says. Everyone thinks you're dead. The official record says KIA, body not recovered. How are you standing here? Meredith doesn't answer. Can't answer. The truth is complicated, involving decisions made by people above her pay grade, paperwork that erased her from official records for reasons that made sense at the time, but feel like erasure now. They'd offered her a choice: stay dead on paper and disappear into civilian life, or stay in and spend the rest of her career behind a desk because someone who'd become that visible couldn't operate in shadows anymore. She'd chosen invisible. The bar door opens. An older woman walks in, moving with the slight limp of someone whose body remembers injuries that happened years ago. She's maybe late 40s, dark hair cut military short, wearing a jacket that falls open to reveal a Navy veteran t-shirt underneath. She scans the room with tactical awareness, eyes moving in patterns that mark her as someone trained to assess threats. Her gaze lands on Meredith. She freezes. Literally stops moving mid-step, one foot suspended above the floor, before she sets it down carefully like the ground might give way. Her face goes through a series of expressions too fast to catalog. Shock, disbelief, recognition, something that might be anger, or might be relief, or might be both. No. The word comes out strangled. No, you're not real. You can't be real. Meredith's entire body goes rigid. Vance. The woman, Vance, crosses the bar in 5 steps. She's shaking, hands trembling as she reaches out like she needs to physically confirm Meredith's existence. Her fingers touch Meredith's shoulder, grip it hard enough to bruise. They told me you were dead, her voice breaks. They said you died, bled out before QRF arrived. They had a memorial service. I spoke at your memorial service. I know. You know? Vance's grip tightens. You know they told us you were gone and you just let us believe it? It wasn't my choice. Whose choice was it? Meredith doesn't answer. Can't explain the machinery of military bureaucracy. The calculations made by intelligence officers weighing operational security against individual lives. The decision to let a hero die on paper so the mission could continue in secret. Vance's eyes are wet now, tears she's not bothering to hide. You told me to get on that helicopter. You said you'd be right behind me. You looked me in the eyes and you lied. You were bleeding from your femoral artery. You had maybe 10 minutes before you bled out. Someone had to maintain pressure during transport. So you stayed behind. Someone had to hold the perimeter. For 4 hours, Vance's voice rises, alone, while they tried to overrun your position, while we flew away thinking you were right behind us. The bar has become an amphitheater. Every eye fixed on this reunion, this confrontation, this moment of 2 women standing 3 feet apart carrying the weight of a day that changed both their lives. Nash whispers to Rodriguez, "Who is she?" Rodriguez is still on his phone, scrolling frantically. Master Chief Petty Officer Sarah Vance, retired. Navy SEAL support, medical specialist. Holy God, she was there. She was one of the 7. The information spreads through the room in whispers. The 7. The casualties. The people who survived because someone decided their lives mattered more than her own. Vance's hand drops from Meredith's shoulder. She takes a step back, composing herself with visible effort. When she speaks again, her voice is steadier, military discipline reasserting itself over emotion. You held pressure on my leg for 40 minutes while we waited for the bird. You used your belt as a tourniquet because we were out of supplies. You kept talking to me, keeping me conscious, telling me about your sister's wedding and how the cake had collapsed and everyone had to eat sheet cake from the grocery store instead. She pauses. I don't have a sister. I know. You made it up, all of it, just to keep me from going into shock. You needed something to focus on besides dying. Vance laughs, broken and sharp. I focused on your voice, on the fact that you were so calm, so certain we were all going to make it, even when I could hear gunfire, even when the bird took hits on approach. You just kept pressure on my leg and told me ridiculous stories and made me believe I was going to see another sunrise. You did see another sunrise, because of you. Vance gestures at the room, at the Marines and sailors watching with rapt attention. We all did. 7 of us got on that bird. 7 of us made it home. Every single one of us knows we're alive because you decided we were worth saving. You were always worth saving. And you weren't? The question lands like an accusation. You stayed behind because you thought your life mattered less than ours? Meredith's silence is answer enough. Reyes clears his throat. Ma'am, if I may, the radio logs show continuous contact for 4 hours. That means you were treating casualties, holding a perimeter, and coordinating extraction while under fire. Alone. I wasn't alone. QRF was inbound. QRF was 2 hours out when the bird lifted. You held that position solo for 2 hours before reinforcements even launched. Williams has found video on his phone. Grainy footage from what looks like a military forum. This is from a documentary about special operations medicine. They talk about Valkyrie 1 without using your name. It says you eliminated 3 enemy combatants while providing medical care, maintained communication with command, and when QRF finally reached your position, you were still conscious and giving them your casualty report. I was doing my job. Your job, Vance says quietly, was to evacuate with your team. You chose to stay. Someone had to maintain the perimeter. You couldn't defend yourselves in your condition. The pilot needed security to land. The math was simple. The math. Vance shakes her head. You reduced your own life to math. All combat is math. Calculate odds, minimize casualties, complete the mission. You weren't a number, Reyes says. You were a person. Meredith's control is fracturing now, a small crack spreading through the composure she's maintained for years. Her breathing is quickened slightly. Her fingers find her left wrist, touching the tattoo unconsciously. The geometric pattern that marks her as belonging to a unit that officially doesn't exist and an operation that's still classified. Chen speaks up. The forum posts say you were recommended for Medal of Honor, that it got downgraded to Navy Cross because the operation was classified and they couldn't release enough details to justify the higher award. I don't know anything about that. The citation is partially redacted, but it says you displayed exceptional valor while engaged with enemy forces, providing life-saving medical treatment to multiple casualties under sustained fire and refusing evacuation to ensure mission success. Chen looks up from his phone. That's not doing your job. That's being a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm a paramedic who used to do something else. The bartender, who's been silent this entire time, reaches under the counter. He pulls out a shadow box frame, the kind used to display military memorabilia. Inside are medals arranged on dark blue velvet, Purple Heart, Navy Cross, Combat Medical Badge. A photograph shows a younger Meredith in desert camouflage, covered in dust and blood, kneeling beside an open medical kit. Her face is sharper, leaner, eyes holding something this older version has learned to hide. This was delivered here 5 years ago, the bartender says. Came with a note saying to mount it when she was ready to come home. No name, just an address for this bar and instructions to keep it safe. He looks at Vance. I'm guessing you sent it. Vance nods. We all did. The 7 of us. We've been looking for you for 6 years. You found me. Did we? Vance's voice holds an edge, because the woman I knew wouldn't hide, wouldn't pretend she was someone else, wouldn't let people think she was dead rather than face the fact that she saved our lives. That woman got 7 people killed. The words fall like stones. The bar, already quiet, somehow finds a deeper silence. Vance stares. What are you talking about? You saved 7 people. I'm talking about the helicopter pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Webb. He died bringing you out. The bird took fire on approach. He completed the landing, waited while you loaded, and took 3 rounds through the cockpit on ascent. Died in flight. The co-pilot had to take over. Reyes's face goes pale. That's not in the reports. It's in the classified ones. Webb had a wife and 2 daughters. He died because I called in an extraction through a hot LZ. You called in an extraction to save 7 lives, Vance counters. He made a choice, same as you. His choice got him killed. Your choice kept us alive. Vance steps closer. You can't take credit for our survival and then refuse responsibility for how we got out. Webb made a pilot's choice. You made a medic's choice. Both of you decided other people's lives mattered enough to risk your own. And he died for it. And you didn't. Vance's voice softens. You survived. You made it home. And instead of letting people honor what you did, you erased yourself. Meredith's hands are shaking now, the tremor visible. I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be that person. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bird taking fire. Heard Webb on the radio saying he was hit. Watched you all fly away while I stayed behind wondering if I'd made the right call. You made the only call. I don't know that. I'll never know that. Maybe if I'd loaded with you, Webb would have gotten out faster. Maybe those 3 rounds would have missed. Maybe he'd still be alive. And maybe all 8 of us would be dead, Reyes says quietly. You held that LZ so the bird could land safely. Without security, it would have been a suicide run. Webb knew that. He made a combat decision. A decision that killed him. A decision that saved 7, Vance insists. You don't get to negate our lives because his ended. That's not how this works. Around them, the Marines and sailors have gone from spectators to witnesses. This isn't entertainment anymore. It's the private pain of 2 warriors laid bare, the cost of survival made visible, the impossible mathematics of combat where someone always pays and the ones who make it home carry the weight of those who don't. Nash breaks the silence. Ma'am, I'm sorry. I didn't know. When I asked about your call sign, I thought it was just a cool story. Meredith looks at him, this young Marine who started this cascade with innocent curiosity. It's not a cool story. It's people dying and people surviving and none of us knowing if we made the right choices. But you saved them, Nash persists. That's what matters, right? 7 people went home. 8 people should have gone home. War doesn't work that way, Reyes says. You know that, ma'am. We all know that. People die. It's not always fair, not always logical, not always the right person. But you can't carry Webb's death like it's your fault. I called in the bird. To save casualties. That's the job. That's what Casevacs are for. And sometimes the Casevac gets you killed. Vance raises her hand. The movement is sharp, definitive, cutting through the argument. When she speaks, her voice carries command authority. Permission to speak freely, Valkyrie. The call sign hits Meredith like a physical blow. No one's used it in years. No one's called her that since the day they declared her dead. Granted, Meredith says automatically. Military protocol overriding civilian identity. You're being selfish. Meredith blinks. What? Selfish, self-centered, making this about your pain instead of our survival. Vance's voice is hard now. Drill instructor hard. You stayed behind and held that LZ and put 7 people on a bird. And you're so busy feeling guilty about Webb that you can't see what you actually did. I see exactly what I did. No. Vance steps closer, invading personal space the way only someone with shared trauma can. You see what you lost. You don't see what you gave. There are 7 people alive right now because of choices you made. 7 people who went home to families, to children, to lives that continued because you decided we were worth the risk. Webb had a family too, and his death is tragic, but it's not your fault. Vance's hand finds Meredith's shoulder again. You didn't pull the trigger. You didn't fire the rounds that killed him. You did your job. He did his. And the enemy made the choice to shoot. That's on them, not you. Meredith's eyes are wet now, tears she's held back for years finally breaking through. I can't stop seeing it. Can't stop hearing his voice on the radio. Can't stop wondering if there was another way. There wasn't. Vance's certainty is absolute. I was there. I know the position we were in. We were pinned, out of ammo, running out of medical supplies. You made the only call that gave us a chance. It killed him. It saved us. Vance pulls Meredith into a hug, fierce and tight. And you don't get to erase that by hiding in a civilian job pretending you're someone else. Webb died a hero. You survived one. Both are true. Both matter. The bar watches this embrace. 2 women holding each other up while years of grief and guilt and survival flow between them. Staff Sergeant Reyes wipes his eyes. Nash is openly crying. Rodriguez has his phone down, filming forgotten in the face of something too real for social media. When Vance finally releases Meredith, she steps back and does something that makes the entire room hold its breath. She salutes. Full military salute, sharp and precise, the kind reserved for officers and heroes in moments that demand formal recognition. Reyes follows. Then the Navy SEAL in the corner, then Nash, then Rodriguez, then Williams, then Chen. One by one, every person in the bar with military service stands and salutes. 30 hands raised in synchronized tribute to a woman most of them didn't know existed 5 minutes ago. Meredith stands frozen, tears streaming down her face, surrounded by acknowledgement she never asked for and doesn't feel she deserves. The bartender speaks quietly into the silence. Welcome home, Valkyrie. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the people who carry invisible burdens and impossible choices, take a moment to leave a comment. Tell us about someone you know who saved others and then struggled to save themselves. And if you want more stories that honor the complexity of service and sacrifice, subscribe. Because what happens next will show you exactly what coming home really means. The salutes hold for 10 seconds that feel like an hour. Meredith stands surrounded by raised hands, by recognition she's spent years avoiding, by the weight of respect she never believed she earned. Her jaw trembles. She fights it, tries to maintain the composure that's kept her invisible. But the mask is gone now, shattered on the floor alongside Nash's beer glass. She raises her own hand slowly, returning the salute with precision that speaks to muscle memory ingrained deeper than conscious thought. The movement is automatic, perfect, the kind of sharp military courtesy that can't be faked. When she drops her hand, the room drops theirs. The silence persists, heavy with meaning. Vance speaks first. The other 6 are going to lose their minds when I tell them. Don't. Meredith's voice is rough. Please, I can't do this with all of them. Not yet. Too late. I'm texting them right now. Vance pulls out her phone, fingers already moving. Chen, Morrison, DeMarco, Patterson, Williams, Lopez. They've been looking for you just as long as I have. You don't get to stay dead anymore. Vance. No. The word is firm. You've had 6 years of hiding. We get tonight. Meredith knows that tone. Master Chief Petty Officer voice. The one that doesn't negotiate. She nods, surrendering to the inevitable. The bartender sets a fresh whiskey in front of her. This one's on the house. Seems like the least I can do for someone who's got a Navy cross mounted on my wall. I didn't ask for that to be here. The 7 people who sent it did. They wanted you to have somewhere to come home to. He extends his hand. Name's Garrett, Navy corpsman, retired. Served in Fallujah, first rotation. I know what it's like to save people and then spend years wondering if you did enough. Meredith shakes his hand. His grip is firm, scarred, the kind that comes from years of handling trauma. Did you figure it out? If you did enough? No, but I figured out that asking the question means you cared. That counts for something. Staff Sergeant Reyes approaches carefully, like she might bolt if he moves too fast. Ma'am, permission to ask a question. Granted. Why did you leave? Not just the service, but this. He gestures at the shadow box, the gathering crowd, the evidence of community. Why disappear instead of letting people know you made it? Meredith looks at her whiskey. Because being Valkyrie 1 meant carrying every decision, every casualty, every mission that went wrong. It meant being the person everyone looked to when things fell apart. And I couldn't be that person anymore. Not after Webb. Not after watching good people die because I made calls that seemed right in the moment, but haunted me after. So you became someone else. I became someone smaller. Someone who didn't have to make life and death decisions. Someone who could save people without calculating which ones were worth the cost. Civilian paramedic, Garrett says. Still saving lives, just different math. Simpler math. Car accidents, heart attacks, overdoses. Clear cause, clear treatment, clear outcome most of the time. Nobody asking me to choose who gets on the helicopter and who stays behind. Vance's phone buzzes, then buzzes again, then erupts in a cascade of notifications. She glances at the screen and smiles. They're coming. All of them. Chen's 40 minutes out. He was visiting family in Oceanside. Morrison's 2 hours, driving down from San Francisco. The others are scrambling flights and making excuses to spouses about why they need to leave right now. Meredith's hands shake slightly. I'm not ready. You've had 6 years to get ready. Time's up. Nash, who's been silent since the salutes, clears his throat. Ma'am, I need to apologize. I was treating this like a game, like your service was entertainment. I didn't understand what I was asking about. You couldn't have known. I could have been more respectful. Could have recognized that if you weren't talking about your past, maybe there was a reason. He looks genuinely stricken. My instructor at SOI told us that the best operators are the ones you never hear about, that real heroes don't advertise. I should have remembered that before pushing. You were curious. That's not a crime. It's disrespectful when the person clearly doesn't want to discuss it. Nash extends his hand. I'm sorry, truly. Meredith shakes it. Apology accepted. And for what it's worth, your instructor was right. The best operators are the ones whose names you never learn. Rodriguez approaches next, phone in hand but screen dark. I deleted the recording and the photos. Figured that's not something that should exist without your permission. Thank you. Can I ask one thing, though? Not about the mission, just about after. How did you end up here? How does someone go from special operations to civilian paramedic? Meredith considers the question. Carefully, with a lot of paperwork that erased me from official records, with help from people who understood that some soldiers can't keep fighting, even if they're good at it. The Navy let me separate quietly, declared me KIA for operational security, and helped me build a civilian identity that didn't include the parts of me that couldn't come home. But you did come home, Reyes says. You're here. You survived. My body came home. The rest of me stayed in that valley for a long time. She touches her wrist, the tattoo. Maybe it's still there. Vance grabs her hand. Then we go get it, together. That's what the 7 of us have been trying to do. We can't move forward while you're stuck in the past, and you can't heal while pretending the past didn't happen. So we integrate it. We face it. We carry it together instead of you carrying it alone. The door opens. A man in his 30s rushes in, scanning the room with frantic energy. He's Asian, fit, moving with the particular awareness that marks military training. His eyes land on Meredith and he stops dead. "Chen," Vance calls out. "Took you long enough." Chen crosses the distance in 4 strides. He doesn't ask permission, doesn't hesitate, just pulls Meredith into a crushing hug that lifts her off the ground. "You're alive. You're actually alive." "Can't breathe," Meredith gasps. He sets her down but doesn't let go. Hands on her shoulders, studying her face like he's memorizing it. "They told us you died, said you bled out before QRF arrived. I spoke at your memorial. I cried at your memorial." "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize for living." His voice breaks. "Don't ever apologize for that." Over the next hour, the others arrive. Morrison, a tall black woman with surgical scars visible on her neck. DeMarco, built like a linebacker, walking with a cane from injuries that didn't heal quite right. Patterson, quiet and intense, with the kind of eyes that have seen too much. Williams, not the Marine corporal, but a different Williams, older, steadier. Lopez, compact and fierce, hugging Meredith hard enough to crack ribs. Each arrival brings fresh tears, fresh embraces, fresh confirmation that the people Meredith saved are real and alive and standing in front of her. The bar becomes a reunion. Chairs pulled together, stories flowing, 6 years of separation compressed into urgent conversation. They talk about what happened after. Morrison became a physician assistant, working in veteran medicine. DeMarco teaches tactical medicine to police departments. Patterson writes software that helps coordinate emergency response. Williams runs a nonprofit supporting military families. Lopez trains therapy dogs for veterans with PTSD. Chen manages a crisis helpline. "We all found ways to keep saving people," Chen says, "because you showed us that's what we do. Even when it costs everything, we save people." "You would have done that anyway," Meredith says. "Maybe, but we do it the way we do it because of you." Morrison touches the scar on her neck. "I got my medical training because I watched you work. Watched you stay calm when I was bleeding out. Watched you prioritize and triage and make impossible decisions look simple. I wanted to do that for other people." DeMarco nods. "I teach the way you taught us. Stay calm, trust your training, focus on what you can control. Those were your words while we were pinned down, and they're my words now when I'm training cops who might face the same thing." The stories continue, each person shaped by that day, by those 4 hours, by the calm voice of a medic who refused to let them die. They've built lives on the foundation of survival, transformed trauma into purpose, turned the worst day of their lives into the reason they keep showing up. Meredith listens, overwhelmed. She'd spent 6 years thinking she failed, thinking Webb's death negated everything else, thinking the cost was too high. But here's the evidence that the math worked differently than she'd calculated. 7 lives saved, 7 people who went on to save others. A cascade of good spreading from one terrible decision made in a valley half a world away. "We have something for you," Vance says. She pulls a small box from her jacket, sets it on the table. "Open it." Inside is a challenge coin, not military issue, custom made. One side shows the date, August 7th, 2019, with coordinates marking the valley. The other side has 8 names engraved in a circle. 7 she recognizes. The 8th is Marcus Webb. "We had these made 2 years ago," Vance explains. "One for each of us and one for you. We've been carrying them, waiting for the day we could give you yours. Meredith's vision blurs. You included Webb. Of course we did. 8 people were in that valley. 8 names deserve to be remembered. Vance closes Meredith's fingers around the coin. You don't get to carry him alone. He's ours too. His sacrifice, his choice, his legacy. We all own it together. The coin is warm from Vance's pocket, solid and real. Meredith runs her thumb over the engraved names, feeling each letter. I don't know if I can do this. Do what? Stop being the person who left. Start being the person who came back. You don't have to choose, Chen says gently. You can be both. The person who survived and the person who's still surviving. The medic who made impossible choices and the paramedic who makes simple ones. All of it's true. All of it's you. Morrison adds, we spent 6 years learning how to integrate what happened with who we are now. It's hard. Some days it's impossible. But it's better than pretending the past didn't happen. I wasn't pretending it didn't happen, Meredith says quietly. I was pretending I didn't survive it. But you did. Lopez's voice is firm. You survived. You get to build a life from that. You get to decide what that life looks like. The bar has mostly cleared out. The casual drinkers recognizing this as something private, something sacred. Only the 7 survivors remain, plus Garrett behind the bar, plus the small group of Marines who started this cascade. Reyes and Nash sit quietly at a nearby table, witnesses to a reunion they helped create. Garrett approaches with the shadow box. This belongs to you. Always has. Meredith looks at the medals, the photograph, the proof of a person she tried to leave behind. Can it stay here? I'm not ready to take it home yet. It can stay as long as you need, but eventually you're going to have to claim it. Claim all of it. I know. She touches the glass over her younger self's face. I just need time. Take it, but don't take too long. The world needs more people who know how to run toward danger instead of away from it. 3 months pass. Meredith stands in front of a classroom of new paramedic students, teaching tactical combat casualty care. The hospital added the course after she proposed it, recognizing that civilian medics face situations that require military-level crisis management. She teaches the way she learned, calm and precise, demonstrating tourniquet application with the kind of efficiency that only comes from using them in combat. The shadow box now hangs in her apartment, mounted where she sees it every morning. Not hidden, not erased, but integrated. Beside it is a new photograph. All 7 survivors gathered at the anchor 3 months ago, arms around each other, smiling. Garrett is in the photo too, and the Marines who witnessed the reunion. A community built from crisis, friendship forged from survival. Her morning routine hasn't changed. Still 0530. Still 5 miles, still cold shower. But now the locked box sits open on her desk, its contents visible. Letters from the 7, finally read. The challenge coin she carries in her pocket now, running her thumb over Webb's name when the past gets heavy. The parachute cord has been repurposed, braided into a bracelet she wears alongside her watch. She meets the survivors for coffee twice a month. Sometimes they talk about the mission, processing details they couldn't discuss before. Sometimes they talk about normal things, jobs and families and the mundane beauty of lives that continued. The conversations help, creating space for both the person she was and the person she's becoming. Jennifer, the nurse who used to tease her about military precision, asked about the change. Meredith told her some of it, enough to explain the shadow box that appears in the background when they video chat. Jennifer's respect shifted from amusement to genuine admiration, but their friendship stayed intact, built now on honesty instead of carefully maintained distance. Dr. Hassan recommended her for an instructor position teaching trauma response to surgical residents. She declined, not ready for that level of visibility, But she teaches the paramedic course, and that feels right. Teaching people to save lives without teaching them to sacrifice themselves. Finding balance between competence and preservation. The young combat medic she's been mentoring, a woman named Riley separating after 8 years in the Army, asks how to bridge military and civilian identities. Meredith tells her what the 7 taught her. You don't leave parts of yourself behind, you integrate them. Take the good, process the hard, carry it all forward, but don't let it define every moment. You were a soldier, now you're something else. Both are true. Riley looks at the shadow box. Do you ever regret it? Leaving? Every day, and also never. Meredith considers how to explain the complexity. I regret that I had to choose. I don't regret the choice I made. I needed to step back, to stop being the person everyone looked to when things fell apart. But I also lost something by hiding. Lost connection, lost community, lost the chance to process what happened with people who understood. How did you get it back? I didn't. The people I saved found me and gave me permission to stop hiding. She touches the challenge coin in her pocket. Sometimes you need someone else to tell you it's okay to survive. Saturday evening, Meredith walks into the Anchor. The bar is loud again, full of Marines and sailors enjoying weekend freedom. But when she enters, Garrett catches her eye and nods. She takes her usual seat at the end, back to the wall, observing the room. Nash sees her first. He's with a different group now, older Marines, but he breaks away to approach. Ma'am, good to see you. Nash, how's training? Intense, but I keep thinking about what you said. About the best operators being the ones you never hear about. Trying to be that kind of Marine. You will be. You ask the right questions. He grins. Even when they lead to people dropping their drinks? Especially then. Curiosity with respect is a powerful combination. He returns to his table, leaving her to her whiskey. But the solitude doesn't last. Vance arrives with Morrison and Chen, settling in around her. They don't ask permission, don't make it a big production. Just join her the way friends do, easy and natural. They talk about mundane things, Chen's daughter's soccer game, Morrison's nightmare patient, Vance's ongoing battle with her homeowners association about her flagpole. Normal conversation, normal lives, built on the foundation of abnormal survival. Later, when the others have left and Meredith sits alone again, Garrett brings her another whiskey. You look different than you did 3 months ago. How so? Lighter, like you're carrying less weight. Meredith considers this. I'm carrying the same weight, just distributing it better. That's what community does, spreads the load. She looks around the bar, at the Marines laughing and arguing, at the shadow box on the wall with her face blurred but her medals clear, at the life she's building from pieces she tried to discard. Garrett, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever feel like you're living in 2 worlds? The one where you served and the one where you're trying to be normal? He's quiet for a moment. Every day. But I stopped thinking of them as separate about 10 years ago. Started thinking of them as chapters in the same book. Different tone, different setting, same character. The guy who served in Fallujah and the guy who owns this bar, they're both me. I don't have to choose. What if one chapter feels more real than the other? Then you haven't finished writing the second one yet. Give it time. Give yourself permission to make this chapter as important as the first. Meredith finishes her drink, stands. Thank you for keeping the shadow box, for this place, for letting me figure it out. That's what this bar is for. Veterans finding their way home. He extends his hand. See you next week? Next week. She drives home through coastal fog, windows down, breathing in salt air. The helicopters on base are quiet tonight, grounded by weather. The silence feels peaceful instead of heavy. Her apartment is dark when she arrives. She doesn't turn on lights immediately, just stands at the window looking out at the ocean. The locked box sits open on her desk. The shadow box hangs on her wall. The photograph of 8 people who survived sits beside a photograph of 7 people who found their way back to each other. She picks up both frames, holding them side by side. Her younger self, covered in dust and blood, eyes hard with combat focus. Her current self, older, scarred differently, surrounded by people who chose to find her. The geometric tattoo on her wrist catches lamplight. Coordinate markers, intersection points, the spot where her past and present meet. She'd tried to erase the past, tried to become someone who didn't carry those memories. But the past wasn't separate from her. It was foundational, the experience that taught her what she was capable of surviving. She sets the photographs on her dresser side by side, past and present, integrated finally. On her desk, her phone shows a message from Riley, the young combat medic. Just 2 words and a photo. The photo shows Riley in civilian clothes, smiling, standing outside a fire station with a paramedic certification in hand. The words say, "Thank you." Meredith types back, "You did this yourself. I just showed you it was possible." Riley's response comes fast. "You showed me surviving was worth it. That's everything." Meredith sits with that for a long time. 7 people she saved went on to save others. Riley will save people too. A cascade of good spreading from one terrible day, from choices made under impossible pressure, from a decision to value other lives even when it meant risking her own. She pulls out the challenge coin, runs her thumb over the 8 names. 7 survivors, 1 pilot. 8 people who were in that valley. 8 names that matter. She'd spent 6 years thinking Webb's death negated everything else. But maybe the math was different. Maybe 1 death and 7 survivals wasn't failure. Maybe it was the best outcome possible from an impossible situation. Maybe holding herself responsible for Webb meant denying his choice, his courage, his decision to complete the mission even when it cost him everything. She sets the coin beside the photographs, opens her laptop, creates a new document, types a title. Living with What We Carry, a combat medic's guide to coming home. She's not sure if it's for herself or for others like Riley who need permission to integrate their past with their present. Maybe both. Maybe that's the point. The cursor blinks on an empty page. She begins to type. The hardest part isn't leaving the war. It's learning that who you were in the fight doesn't disappear. It becomes part of who you are after. You carry the decisions, the losses, the moments when you had to choose who lived and who stayed behind. You carry the faces of people who trusted you to get them home. You carry the weight of the ones who didn't make it. But you also carry the proof that you survived, that you made choices under impossible pressure and some of those choices saved lives, that your training mattered, your courage mattered, your willingness to stay when everyone else left mattered. You don't heal by forgetting. You heal by integrating, by letting the person you were inform the person you're becoming without letting it define every moment, by building community with people who understand what you carry, by finding purpose that honors the past while creating a future. This is me learning to do that. These are the lessons from people who refused to let me stay hidden, who found me when I didn't want to be found, who reminded me that survival is worth the weight of what we carry. She writes for an hour, words flowing faster than she expected. The document isn't finished, won't be finished for a long time. But it started, and that matters. At midnight, she saves the file, sets her alarm for 05:30, looks at the photographs one more time. Tomorrow, she'll run her 5 miles. She'll teach her paramedic course. She'll meet Vance for coffee and help Riley navigate her first week as a civilian medic. She'll carry the challenge coin and touch Webb's name when the weight gets heavy. She'll live in both worlds, past and present, soldier and civilian, Valkyrie 1 and Meredith Crane. All of it true, all of it her. The fog outside her window is lifting. first light beginning to touch the horizon. She can see the ocean now, endless and vast, carrying everything that falls into it and somehow staying itself. Absorbing without erasing, holding without drowning. She understands the metaphor. Some things you don't leave behind. You learn to carry them. You learn to let others help carry them. You learn that the weight doesn't get lighter, but you get stronger. And that strength becomes the foundation for whatever comes next. Her phone buzzes. Group message from the 7. Chen has found a photo from the mission, officially declassified last week. 8 people in desert camouflage, 7 wounded but alive. 1 medic, younger, fiercer, holding her aid bag like a weapon. Marcus Webb visible in the background, boarding his helicopter. The caption Chen added says simply, "All 8 of us mattered." Meredith saves the photo, adds it to her growing collection. Past and present, loss and survival, the terrible math of combat, and the beautiful math of community built from its aftermath. She closes her laptop. The apartment is quiet, peaceful. Home in a way it hasn't been before. The locked box stays open. The shadow box stays visible. The photographs stay side by side. And when the sunrise breaks full and clear across the water, Meredith Crane, who used to be Valkyrie 1 and is learning to be both, stands at her window and watches the new day begin. If this story touched you, if it made you think about the people who carry impossible weight with quiet grace, share it. Tell us in the comments about someone who survives something they don't talk about, who carries scars they don't show, who saves others while struggling to save themselves. And if you believe these stories matter, if you want to honor the complexity of service and sacrifice and survival, subscribe. Because there are thousands of Valkyries out there, living invisible lives, carrying weight we'll never see. They deserve to know we see them anyway.